We're an island nation, drawn to the sea that surrounds us. For many, it's a playground. For others, it's where we earn our living. But the sea's unpredictable. It can change in an instant. And when accidents happen, they happen very fast.
The sea is a dangerous place. If you don't respect the sea will bite you.
There to save our lives is a volunteer army of nearly 5,000 ordinary people, ready to leave their jobs, their families, to race to our rescue.
It makes the hairs on the back of your neck stand up, to know that if it wasn't for you, that person wouldn't be here.
They rescued me, but they also saved a mum, a daughter, a sister, a wife.
Oh my God.
To see someone disappear under the water right in front of you is brutal. It's absolutely horrendous.
Equipped with their own cameras,
My light flashing. Yeah, it's mine.
the crews give us a unique insight into every call-out as only they see it.
Right, there's another little wave.
Speeding through the roughest weather, searching for people who may only have moments to live.
Can you still hear me?
For those who risk their lives, it has become a way of life.
When those pagers go off, it's life and death.
Facing out into the Atlantic, Newquay on the north coast of Cornwall is one of the southwest's most popular resorts. Each year, it's inundated with visitors keen to make the most of its sea cliffs, sand, and above all, internationally renowned surf, thanks to waves whipped up over thousands of miles of open ocean. Little surprise then, the lifeboat station here is busy, with an average of 60 shouts a year.
We're really fortunate to have such a beautiful stretch of coastline in quite a condensed area, so we've got so many sort of coves, you know, really sort of high-sided cliffs. You know, it looks very dramatic, but it's very exposed to the swells and the conditions, so with the beauty does come the danger.
We get a lot of people from inland and really have got no sort of concept of the dangers of the sea. You get a lot of shouts for people that have literally got no idea.
Newquay's coves and inlets are often fully submerged well before high tide, which means a lot of repeat business for the crew.
We deal with a lot of cut-off by the tide. People coming down on holiday who don't know the area, and they go out on the beach and don't really know what the tide's doing.
I can never imagine a world without tidal cut-offs in Newquay, I'm afraid.
A warm weekend evening in mid-August.
Attention, lifeboat launching.
Once again, some holidaymakers have been caught out by the rising tide. This time a couple have been stranded in a cove by one of the town's most popular beaches. With no way up the steep cliffs, the husband has braved the waters to swim around the rocks and raise the alarm, leaving his wife waiting on the ever-shrinking beach.
The young lady is actually on the first cove. Best access would be via the Lusty Bay side of the Barfields.
Every minute the tide is rising, the surf is becoming bigger too. And as the crew speed towards the cove, they learn of a further complication.
Your last on service to recovery of a 7-month pregnant woman currently stuck on the rocks.
Definitely thinking I'm going to have to be more careful. She's obviously in a more delicate situation than the normal sort of person that you might rescue.
We've got to think about how we'd get her into the boat, and then also coming out in the boat, it's not just like sitting in an armchair. You're going to get sort of wet and a few knocks from the waves.
Sea conditions on the day is the biggest consideration, really. There's no way that we'd like to sort of take a pregnant lady out through heavy surf.
There's 2 people in there, look.
The casualty is over half a mile away from the lifeboat station near Tolkarn Beach, in a narrow bay fringed with jagged rocks. Within 3 minutes of launching, the D-class inshore lifeboat arrives, to be faced with large waves breaking in the cove.
First sighting of her, she was sort of stood on the beach, looked to be unharmed at that stage from afar anyway. Then really the situation sort of turns away from her back into the boat again and how we're going to get in to get her.
If it was going to prove too much, then we'd have to look at other options of extracting her from the cove. Stopped, I had a chat with my crew, not only to me to tell them what we could do, is to have a chat and see what between us, whether we got ideas, bounce off each other. They might have better ideas than me.
Is it worth getting a paddle out? Just go in there quietly.
Just to push off. Just get past any waves like that, and then we're just going to push in with the paddles, all right? Yeah. Be ready to do it like a canoe, like if you have to. Just stand up like paddleboard or something.
Improvising, the crew decide to use the D-class's oars to navigate a path to the shore.
You've got one here. Yeah, you're right.
Where she was situated on the beach, there's quite a lot of sort of submerged, semi-submerged rocks that are low enough that make it difficult to see them, but high enough that you'd take the prop off the boat if you hit them.
You've got a fairly clear channel right through there. Yeah. There's one. There's one.
Quite a few rocks, so I've got a new track there as well.
If the engine had have hit a rock, it's quite possible we could have lost the engine. If we'd damaged the engine, we'd have lost propulsion.
I think we're right here.
Teamwork was extremely important. It always is really like that.
You got this one here. You got one here as well. I think you can go right through there. Got some through there, boys. Through there.
They were able to look all around. I could concentrate more on steering, and then they're ready to shout orders. If they see a rock, I can respond to it.
To the right a bit, through here. Across here. Yeah, you're in, you're in, you're in. Across here. And straighten up. We're in, that's all right. You've got a little one just in front of your nose here.
It's taken 10 minutes to reach the pregnant casualty. In that time, a passing surfer has stopped to offer help.
How you doing, all right?
The rising tide is now only a few meters from the back of the cove.
The lady's reaction was that of joy, I would say. She looked quite excited that finally help was with her. I suppose just complete relief, really.
Nearly an hour has passed since the casualty watched her husband swim out for help.
She was lucky. Had the husband not made it round from the cove, it was quite a treacherous patch of water there, then the tide could have run in and she would have had no dry beach to stand on. So she relied on her husband to raise the alarm, because from the beach you can't see inside the cove, so they were lucky, very.
As the tide continues to rise, sea conditions in the cove begin to settle. The crew's return journey will be much smoother. But it's unlikely to be the last of this type of rescue they do this summer.
It does get frustrating, actually, because a lot of these situations could be avoided. There's only one jut of cliff that separates them from safety. So literally, you know, if they'd have known about the tides and known not to be in that cove at that time, they would never have got cut off, and it could have been avoided.
The casualty's husband has been waiting on the main beach.
The husband came down to see her. He was absolutely relieved. We even managed to get his bag of beers, so I think he was doubly relieved.
Hey guys, I should say thank you for you. Okay. Well, Matt.
I'd like to think that potentially sort of saved a disastrous ending to their day, really.
On average, the Newquay lifeboat crew responds to over 20 tidal cut-offs a year, nearly a third of all their shouts. Tide tables are a useful guide, but the tide times and heights can vary hugely from beach to beach. With this in mind, the crew here now carry out specialist foot patrols to the spots where people are most commonly caught out.
Historically, we've always had lifeboat shouts to bed the roots and steps, but due to the popularity down here, they were just getting too frequent, and it really spiked a couple of years ago, so we had to do something about it. We're 2 hours off low tide now, and as you can probably see, we've got the bays are starting to cut off due to the tide. You can actually see, if you look over my shoulder, you see two people come in from one of the further coves along, so they're going to have to get wet now to come back around that cove already. So there's potentially some more people around there as well, so we'll have to go and do the check to find out.
Twice a day, Lewis and his team do a complete sweep of the most dangerous beaches to make sure that no one is left high and dry.
How you doing there, you all right? Good, good. Just come for a little explore, so you probably see my colleague just bringing you back. We've got big tides at the minute. Anybody around the rocks? So lifeguards, just come onto the main beach before you go off by the tide. So it's quite a tight time frame. We'll actually sort of almost be starting to get cut off ourselves. I think there might be somebody in the southern side, so if we'll go through. Here's two. How you doing, fellas, you all right?
Yeah, great.
Good, good. Right, if you make your way back on there, because this tide's going to cut you off pretty soon. Nice one. Cheers, boys. At the end of the day, we're here to advise, so if somebody doesn't want to listen to my advice, that's their prerogative. I can't force anybody to do anything, but most of the time people are nice.
Around the country, lifeboats are launched over 8,800 times a year, often into seas at their very worst. With this number of shouts, even the best planned rescues can go wrong, testing the mettle of crews to the limit.
Sometimes you have to deal with the unexpected.
Anything and anything can go wrong at sea, and if it does go wrong at sea, it'll go wrong dramatically.
Fear of capsizing our vessel, it's something which we never want to do. It's always the worry that's there.
I've been hit with rogue waves before, where we've been out on a fairly moderate day and we've been clumped.
Yeah, things can change instantly. It's split-second things and there is no safety net.
You right?
Something goes wrong, like a prop gets fouled or an engine breaks.
We got problems.
Then you have to have an instinct to be able to let you deal with that safely and effectively.
Flare out, go flare out.
It's the not knowing, I think, that probably keeps people going, and I think that's what keeps it interesting.
On the northeast coast of Wales, Rhyl was a popular Victorian resort that continues to pull in visitors in considerable numbers.
The coastline around Rhyl, huge sandy beaches. At low water you can have up to a mile of beach. Yeah, plenty of sandbanks and gullies in between, and people sometimes get into difficulty, stuck on sandbanks, not realising that the tide's coming around them.
There's been a lifeboat station here for over 150 years, and its pride and joy is the Mersey-class all-weather lifeboat.
We get a variety of shouts Rhyl, from anything from commercial vessels right the way through to people caught by the tide, children inflatable dinghies, fishing boats.
The angling trips at Rhyl are very popular in the good weather. People come from all over the UK to fish off our coast.
But any fishing trip out at sea has its dangers. Mid-April, the Coast Guard has received a report of a medical emergency on a fishing boat.
What we were told was that an elderly gentleman had fallen over and he was screaming in pain, and they just wanted us to get on scene straight away and assess the situation.
On shouts like these, time is of the essence. But the lifeboat's launch is often delayed by Rhyl's extreme low tides, which is where the station's fully waterproof 19-ton launch tractor comes into play.
Low tide can be quite frustrating at times. We can take sort of 8 to 10 minutes to get to the launch site. You know, you can hear it going on the radio and you just want to be in the water and on the way to the casualty.
After a mile-long haul, the lifeboat reaches deep enough water to launch.
On the way to a casualty, you're trying to get as much information as you can from the Coast Guard and from the angling boat.
Main concerns are what state is he in himself, like how is he coping with it, what's going on inside. You just don't know, it could be anything.
Nearly half an hour after the initial call came in, the fishing boat is located 7 miles offshore.
He looks in pain. I'm ready to go.
Helm Martin tasks Andy and trainee midwife Tara to provide casualty care.
I like to do the first aid shouts. I love doing them actually. Knowing about CPR and things like that, we get taught that, so it's helped me with like the first aid side of things.
I'll go first.
It was quite sloppy with the waves. There was a little bit of a swell running, and the most difficult part of the incident, got to place 2 of your own crew on board a fishing boat that might be rolling and pitching. It can be heart in your mouth a little bit.
The casualty is a 71-year-old man. He's fallen while fishing and is in extreme discomfort. He needs urgent pain relief, but first the crew have to assess his condition.
Where's the pain coming from? It's coming from your hip? Yeah? Right.
Any movements, any breaks, he's
right, okay. What we've...
Do you feel out of breath or anything? Do you feel out of breath or anything? You're not hypertensive, you're not... No. So your breathing's normal.
The crew decide to give the casualty Entonox, a mix of nitrous oxide and oxygen, which provides pain relief without inducing a loss of consciousness. Otherwise known as gas and air, it's used in many clinical procedures, including childbirth.
What's his name again, sorry? Roy. Just call him Roy. Roy? Yeah. Roy, my name's Andy and this is Tara. If you keep on breathing the Entonox and then let us know how your pain relief is, we can then make an assessment of whether we'll be able to get you into our stretcher.
It looks like he has possibly a fractured hip. The biggest concerns would be internal bleeding. We just want to get him back as quickly as possible to the hospital so that they can make sure he's okay.
Is the pain okay? Is it going or?
It's going.
It's going. Good job. Keep on supping.
I would have done, but you asked me a question.
Are you allergic to anything?
Married.
It was good that he kept a sense of humour in the condition that he was in. Yeah, a really nice chap.
How you getting on of it?
Yeah, initial assessment, casualties in pain, can barely move.
Andy and Tara relay updates to Helm Martin, who in turn keeps the Coast Guard informed of the casualty's condition. The man needs urgent medical attention, but the tide is now so low that the fishing boat cannot get into the harbour.
Andy had called me and said, you know, it might be worth getting a helicopter. He's in considerable pain. He was quite elderly. So we spoke to the Coast Guard and it came back quite quickly that the helicopter was already on another incident. So it suddenly became apparent to us that it was down to us to get him ashore.
With no airlift available, the quickest way of bringing the casualty ashore is on board the lifeboat and then up the beach on its launch trailer. First of all, the crew need to lift him over to the boat.
We'll secure you in a stretcher and pass you over to the lifeboat, and then we'll take you back to the beach where we'll be met by an ambulance. You keep on supping.
I tell you ain't going to happen.
We've got another bottle of this left on the lifeboat, so...
You needed to get me over there.
He wasn't happy with the plan. He knew that it would be painful to move. Being strapped into a stretcher isn't the best of places to be, let alone when you're in a lot of pain.
It'd be best if you knocked me out and then put me in.
Unfortunately, we haven't got...
a bottle of whiskey here, but you can't have it.
We don't carry those sort of drugs, I'm afraid.
He does.
We did have to persuade him somewhat, convince him that the plan that we'd made was the best for him. He knew that either way he would have to go into a stretcher.
Yep, he's got room. You're doing great.
When we started moving him, any slight bit of movement, you know, he was sort of yelping. I think anyone in that situation would be exactly the same.
We could hear him screaming from across the way where we sat with the lifeboat waiting for a report. We were probably 60, 70 foot away. He was quite a character. I remember him. He was certainly in shock and he was certainly in a great deal of pain. So it's probably his way of coping.
Yeah, just to give you a sit rep, Martin. The casualty's now in the stretcher with some delicate manoeuvring. We're just going to fasten him in, get him strapped up, get the life jackets on before we pass him across. So, cover.
Getting the casualty into the stretcher is only half the challenge. The stretcher now needs to be transferred to the lifeboat waiting alongside.
So we've got to put the two boats together and get the stretcher across as well. So one of the ways we do it is do what we call a slow speed transfer. So we get them to put the boat in gear so the boat's travelling, and we have to try and gauge the speed so it's not rolling and wallowing. And at the same time, while he's steering one direction, we put the lifeboat alongside him.
If you can steer the boat best as you can, pick up speed just a couple of knots. 1, 2, 3, lift. Rest him on the handrail. There we go. That'll do.
Can be challenging. Things can go wrong.
Hang on there, don't push.
You're holding your breath. I don't know why, it's just like a natural thing. You're holding your breath till he gets across because, you know, it'd be the worst thing ever if you drop someone.
Okay, 1, 2, 3. Okay, you've got him. All yours. Hands clear, everyone. Thanks for all your help, guys. You've been great.
Thank you.
Your fingers are moving all right? Let me just test the blood in your fingers.
Casualty care doesn't stop as soon as you put a casualty into the stretcher. It's constant. So there's constant assessment that needs to be done until you can hand over to the paramedics.
The tractor coming out to us. You're going to attach a line to the boat and then pull us up onto the beach out the water.
When the elderly fall over and hurt themselves, they don't recover as quick as what a younger person would, and they might not recover. You have to try and, not in a bad way, but you have to try and block it out and just think how you can help them.
The casualty was met by a waiting ambulance on shore and taken to hospital. X-rays revealed he'd not only fractured his hip, but also one of his wrists.
He had a realisation that if he was going to hospital, there'd be nobody to feed his cat that evening. And I think he was more concerned for his cat than he was his own well-being.
The seaside town of Tenby lies on the rugged southern coast of Pembrokeshire. Its picturesque Victorian houses are surrounded by a 13th century fortified wall built to protect residents from marauding invaders.
Tenby's on the west coast of Wales, right on the end of nowhere. There's one road in, one road out.
A lifeboat station has been keeping the seas here safe since the 1850s.
A lot of the locals have pleasure boats which they bring down in the summertime. There's a lot of kayaking or windsurfing as well, is quite common, and we do get the occasional commercial fishing vessel that is broken down.
On a calm June day, the station receives an emergency call. This time, it's not the usual suspect.
I was in the harbour when the pager went off. Basically, you never know what's going to happen. The adrenaline starts running, and you just, you do get that buzz of excitement that, you don't know what you're going to. Got to the boathouse and found out we were waiting for the police. So, a bit strange.
I have never used the lifeboat for support before. I've worked in Tenby on and off for 10 years. But personally, I don't have any experience at sea. I didn't realise that, having never been it before, how powerful and how fast the boat is. From the moment of launching down the slip and then turning around to look back at Tenby, we travelled an immense amount of distance in a very, very short space of time.
A sailing boat has been reported stolen from neighbouring Saundersfoot Harbour. It's been sighted heading out to sea.
On the way out, you're thinking, why steal a boat? What's the guy's intentions? Is he stealing it, to make money out of it, or, is he drunk? You do get a lot of that where people just, pinch a boat because they're drunk.
Our initial concerns were not so much of dealing with a crime and needing to apprehend an offender or recover stolen property, but you had to start questioning the person's skill level and knowledge when it came to sailing, and was he putting himself or other seafarers at risk. We had actually established that this male had been seen the previous evening within the harbour and had been sleeping rough. We didn't know what his state of mind was or what his intentions were. We'd had quite a detailed description, and it was quite a distinctive boat in that it had a green hull and a red sail. So I knew pretty much early on from the outset that that boat was going to stand out to us.
Looks like it.
25 minutes after launching, 2 miles offshore from Tenby, the stolen boat looms into view.
I thought it would have been like a nice luxury cruiser or something like that, not a wooden old rickety yacht with a big red sail.
Somebody sailing away and thinking they're going to get a fast getaway, and they're doing about 3 or 4 knots.
Say anything, because he's not looking back.
Pretending he hasn't seen him.
Yeah, so he's looking rather guilty.
We called out initially, demanding he lower the sail. At that stage, he sort of pretty much blanked us.
He totally ignored the big orange lifeboat heading towards him. He just played dumb. He just didn't have a clue what was going on, and he just kept going in the direction he was sailing.
There was a little bit of concern in the fact that the male was ignoring us because we didn't know what his intention was. We didn't know what his state of mind was. People do try and get away from the police.
You don't know if he's carrying a knife or a weapon or if he's going to be aggressive, so you try and stay back a little bit on the boat.
It was a different adrenaline feeling having the police on board. It's like, what's going to happen? Is this guy going to kick off? Are we going to be dealing with all sorts of... It was quite surreal, really.
With the skill of the lifeboat crew, as very skilled as they are, they managed to manoeuvre the lifeboat alongside the stolen vessel. The lifeboat crew were able to sort of grab a piece of the rigging, as it were, and pull the boat closer, and one of the lifeboat crew boarded the vessel. There was an element of concern for their safety as well. Were we putting him in danger?
As coxswain, Phil is responsible for his crew's safety. He chooses nightclub bouncer, Matt, to board the boat.
I am usually the first person to jump in the water or offer my services to the skipper. I wasn't concerned how he was going to react. I mean, I've worked the doors for 20 years, so I'm used to dealing with aggressive people if he did turn aggressive.
He appeared sort of dishevelled, which tied in with the fact that we'd received that information about him sleeping rough. He spoke very little, he didn't really engage with us, and for his safety, he was taking them below deck to prevent him either jumping off or harming himself.
Once questioned, the boat thief reveals to the police that his intention had been to sail round the south coast and across the channel to France.
Once I jumped on board, we realised that he was navigating with a 20-year-old AA Road Atlas. I don't think that was going to get him to France. I don't think it even covered France. And a couple of tins of random food. I think he might have had a pot noodle and some red salmon. It's just ridiculous. But then I don't think he was in the right frame of mind for sailing to France.
Had we not had the support of the lifeboat that day, I dread to think what would have happened to the individual, how far the individual would have gone. before he would have succumbed and either capsized or fallen overboard or indeed injured other sailors at sea.
Back in Saundersfoot Harbour, a police car is waiting for the thief.
He said to Teeny inside there, he said, "You dobbed me in." CCTV all over the place, mate.
You dobbed me in.
He later pleaded guilty to stealing a boat and was sentenced to 14 days in prison.
We don't get too many shouts like it, to be honest. I mean, we do have a blue light on top of the boat, but I don't think we haven't got any sirens.
A 160 miles southeast is the city of Portsmouth, which lies on Portsea Island in the Solent. The port's strategic position in the Channel has given it a central role in naval history. At the height of the British Empire, it was the world's most fortified military base. Today, the local lifeboat crew keep the seas safe from their base on Langstone Harbour.
Right, chappies, we're just practicing some rope work. If you can, all tie bowline for us.
24-year-old Brittany has been volunteering here for over 5 years.
So I'm from Portsmouth, lived here all my life, grew up here. It's basically an island filled with water around it. Busy station here as well. A lot of the time in the summer you're kind of looking more for casualty care jobs or people go missing and spending a bit more time out on the water, and we'll go and search for them.
The Portsmouth Lifeboat Station is at the centre of 3 linked natural harbours, between them home to hundreds of dinghies and yachts.
You've got people out there that are really experienced and yet stuff still goes wrong. So sometimes we are our worst enemy, but then sometimes things just go wrong.
A warm day in June. The inland waters appear calm, but beyond the harbour a strong wind is creating choppy seas with large swells. A call comes into the station. 2 dinghies have capsized. 4 people are in the water over a mile out to sea.
The casualties that we went out to were quite a long way offshore for the size of boats they're in. I think the wooden dinghies they're in were 10 to 12 foot long, so they weren't big. Sailing dinghies had the potential to sink. I wouldn't say that they were in the safest place that they could be.
When you capsize, it's a lot more serious and a lot more time critical that you need to get there because someone can drown in 90 seconds. It's really important that you get there quickly.
It was quite choppy. The wind had picked up a little bit as well, so it was, you're kind of thinking, how far have they drifted? Have they managed to get any of their boats back up yet? Are they with their boats, or is it 4 singular people in the water just kind of bobbing around and we've got to search for them and try and find each one?
It takes 4 minutes for the Atlantic class to reach the casualty's last known location. But there's only 1 dinghy, and just 2 people clinging on. A passing motorboat has picked up the other 2 sailors, but this dinghy has now drifted over half a mile away from their friends.
As we got to the first casualties, they were pointing over to where this motorboat was. But as we were with them and the fact that the other casualties were in or on another vessel, we went for the first capsized boat, as they were still in the water and the other ones weren't.
The challenge now is getting these 2 men out of the water.
It can be quite difficult depending on the size of your casualty, especially when you've got kit on that then weighs them down as well. So they've got water on their kit or soaked into their kit, so it weighs a bit more once you start lifting them out of the water.
The exhausted casualties have been clinging onto their dinghy in choppy seas for nearly an hour.
There we go.
Okay?
I'll hold that, Dwin.
When you're dealing with people in the water, you kind of just look at getting them in and assessing how they are, if they were cold at all, have they swallowed any water, have they inhaled any water, just to see if they're going to need treatment from us.
With 2 casualties now safe, the crew must locate the other members of their group. But as the lifeboat approaches the motor cruiser, it becomes clear that one of these sailors is not completely out of danger yet.
I saw that there was one gent sitting on the back of the swim deck, and the lady that was on the boat had handed him a towel. I thought at first it was just to kind of dry him off a little bit. And as we got a bit closer, he said that he'd hurt his leg.
A crew member needs to board the motor cruiser to properly assess the sailor's injury. But as they come alongside, they learn that this boat has problems of its own.
The motorboat had actually got a rope around its propeller, so it was just drifting in the swell and with the wind. They'd only just picked up that motorboat that day, so they were quite new to that boat themselves, and had attempted to rescue and then got into a sticky situation themselves.
Manoeuvring the 27-foot, 1.8-ton lifeboat alongside a drifting vessel in these seas is no mean feat. But Lewis must get Brittany on board.
The laceration that he had, it was a bit more than just a cut. It was quite big. I'd probably say maybe 6 to 7 inches long. There were quite a lot of waves kind of coming over and almost washing the blood off. But he was also quite cold as well. So that was, I believe, kind of almost stemming the bleeding that was coming out. I asked for a first aid kit to be sent over along with another crew member.
Kim joins Brittany on the motor cruiser.
He did seem quite kind of relaxed, but I think it was more just trying to keep himself calm. He was quite cold as well. We did need to get his leg treated properly because we can only do so much on the boat.
While Kim runs preliminary medical checks, Brittany dresses the man's laceration.
If you imagine getting out of a swimming pool onto the side, he tried to do that onto the boat, but as he was doing it, he'd actually caught his leg on the propeller.
The injured sailor Phil and his crewmate Paul were adrift in the sea for nearly an hour before the motor cruiser spotted them.
The reason the dinghy capsized was mainly because a freak gust of wind just come straight at us. There was no warning. Initially, it was quite worrying. My heart did pump and my adrenaline did kick in. It was just total shock. Without the life jacket, I wouldn't be here now talking about it. I wasn't too sure how far we were getting dragged out because you get quite disorientated and getting tired, getting very, very tired. As time went by, I was getting colder and colder and colder, and I was thinking, is there anybody going to come and get us? I did say to Phil, we need some help soon, so I'm not too sure how long I can hold on for. I was just so pleased when this passing vessel come in to get us.
Phil's leg needs urgent medical attention. So the priority now is to get him and Paul off this boat. But while Paul can board with little assistance, the bigger challenge is transferring a wounded man off a broken-down motor cruiser, which without engine power is now rolling in increasingly choppy seas.
The injured guy, we managed to get him up and onto his feet. He was actually pretty good. He managed to hop over quite elegantly, actually.
Finally, 4 casualties, 2 dinghies and a drifting motor cruiser are all transported back to harbour.
The guys were reasonably lucky to be spotted by the passing motorboat. If the vessel had sunk, then would have run the risk that we were just effectively looking for heads in the water.
We could have been out there until like the hours of darkness. If they started to like lose consciousness, they might have drifted away from their boat. They wouldn't have stayed with that. They might have let go. And yeah, trying to find 4 people that aren't with their boats compared to 4 people that are with their boat is a lot harder.
How lucky was it that day? It's the closest I've come to death, I think. Yes, very lucky.
You're clear, you're clear.
Safely ashore, the casualties are met by a waiting ambulance crew.
The people that we rescued, they came round to every crew member afterwards and said their thanks, which for us, it means a lot.
I met Phil a couple of weeks ago. We had a little survivor's drink down in Eastbourne. Phil's okay because the wound was quite wide. It's still healing, but hopefully he should be back fighting fit soon.
4 lives have been saved today, but the Portsmouth crew won't be able to return to their families and friends just yet.
We've got another job to go to, so hop back on.
No rest on a Sunday then?
Oh no, never is.
By the time we got back from the second shout, it must have been about 7 o'clock. Yeah, my barbecue was finished.
With limestone cliffs rising hundreds of feet, the Gower Peninsula in Wales is home to some of Britain's most breathtaking scenery. Its many beaches and bays are popular with surfers and kayakers. But with strong tides and currents, the waters here can be dangerous.
The Gower Peninsula is quite an interesting piece of coast, so we have a mixture of cliffs which are followed around by the Welsh coastal path, and we also have little coves and sandy beaches which offer a really good place for people to come and enjoy the coast, enjoy the sea, and hopefully enjoy the sun when it comes out.
22-year-old Aidan has been a lifeguard here for 3 years.
I've always loved being around water. I swam from when I was very young and grew up swimming and being in the sea and in the pool and stuff, and it just seemed like pretty cool to be able to work at the beach every day.
The lifeguards here are supported by the Mumbles lifeboat crew, and the popularity of their patch means that this station is the busiest in Wales.
Mumbles, yeah, we have a lot of people involved in water sports. Like on the water today, there's people kayaking, fishing, paddleboarding, swimming. The sea looks so inviting, it's definitely tempting to get involved.
But there's one small watercraft which is the bane of life-saving crews here and around the country.
Yeah, when I hear inflatable, you definitely don't think of it as the most seaworthy craft. So if there's any chop, they're going to struggle in it. And even if it's windy, they're going to struggle to maintain their position against the wind. So if you're in something inflatable that sits on top of the water, you're most likely going to be blown away from the land, so you're going to struggle to get back to your safety.
A warm spring day in the Gower. The lifeboat station is paged. 2 young men have been seen drifting out to sea in a small inflatable kayak.
The questions that we generally sort of want answered as we're sort of processing the information coming in, I guess, what ages they might be, what kind of clothing are they wearing, how far away from the shoreline are they in the water, holding onto the kayak, are they in the kayak and, you know, safe enough.
I've got my keys in my shorts, my parents are asking for them. Right.
The lifeboat station is a few miles from the kayaker's last reported position.
How long? 15 minutes? Yeah.
While the inshore boat makes its way to the scene, Aidan can see the unfolding emergency from the beach.
On the binoculars, the boys were quite far out in the kayaks. We could see the boys were trying to paddle in the opposite direction and they were making no leeway at all, so it was obvious from that point that the boys may need a bit of assistance.
Watching the kayak continue to drift out to sea, Aidan decides to take action.
I was already in my wetsuit and the board was water's edge ready to go, so I ran down and paddled the board out in the direction of where the boys were.
By the time the lifeboat arrives on the scene, Aidan has reached the drifting inflatable and secured it to a passing boat. But it's soon apparent that the bigger problem is the state of the kayakers.
boys have been drinking. Right, okay. So that's why they've kept them on a line. It was a bit short, but I thought it was better than disappearing.
Right, next guy. As the kayakers take refuge on the motorboat, it's clear they've been having a bit of a party.
All right, how are we doing? Good. That's your problem?
Yeah, I can imagine.
So when we approached the vessel that had taken the guys on a tow, it was pretty apparent that they'd had a lot of beer, and there was still quite a lot of it in the boat as well. Yeah.
There's no way this is going to get towed round to there. It's waterlogged. They're in a bit of a state.
The casualties are transferred to the lifeboat. They're safe, but worse for wear and freezing cold.
All right, do you want to put that on? Put that on, please. Right, you can see that pole to put your head through?
I think the type of clothing they're wearing reflects sometimes how often they use the water. These guys didn't have the kit. They were wearing jumpers and coats and things and no life jacket.
And it's not just the kayakers' clothes that are unseaworthy.
The kayak was quite an old inflatable kayak. I mean, it was afloat and it was pumped up fine, but it had taken on quite a lot of water as well. Looked quite old.
Yeah, awesome, very well. Yeah, just for your information, we've currently got the boys on board.
The priority now is to get the merry mariners warmed up and back on dry land.
Are you carrying all these cans back up with you? Yes, I'm with my boys. Can I have one in front, like?
One of the lads, was pretty aware that he was like, OK, I need to have my serious head on here, and then the other lad, I think, was just wanted to carry on drinking.
Can I say one little preachy thing?
Go on, Anna.
Please, just get life jackets next time you're on the water.
Yeah, no, that's
promise. Because that'll save your life.
Experience, isn't it?
I think they were pretty unaware of potentially how severe that situation could have been for them. So, yeah.
Yeah, go on, yeah.
If the lifeguard wasn't there and the vessel that helped them wasn't there, they could have easily been adrift and continued to, go out into the channel, which would have made searching and locating them very difficult as well. So, yeah, could have been quite serious.
For now, the lads' booze cruise is over.
They took the beers with them. They were appreciative. I think they were happy to get out of that situation. Pleased to be back on dry land.
Each shout presents its own challenges. I think you've got to have a level head, I suppose, and with that comes patience. Patience to listen to people, patience to not panic somebody, patience just to kind of go with the flow, I suppose, a little bit if someone's being a bit silly.
Our job isn't to judge anyone for their behaviour or what they're doing on any given day. I think the only thing to bear in mind is that on that day 2 lifeboats were launched and a lifeguard was taken off the beach that they were meant to be patrolling.
For volunteers and their families, one of the hardest things to adjust to is the fact that they have no idea where, why, or when they could be called into action.
If there's a Sunday lunch, you sat down, your pager goes off, you go. If you're bathing your kids, your pager goes off, you go. If you're reading a story to the kids, pager goes off, you go.
One of my first shouts was my boy's first birthday. The party started at 2 o'clock and the pager went off at 5 to 2. So I missed his first birthday.
Christmas Day was the worst. Just about to sit down for Christmas lunch and the pager went off. To be fair, they did keep the dinner on hold, but it was a bit dry when we got back.
Please clear the area. I don't think my colleagues really realise what it involves. If my pager goes off in the middle of the night, I do have to get up and cycle down the cliff in a storm and get on the boat.
Just gone 3:30.
2 hours before work. Get in.
There was a time the pager went off my nan's funeral. It was a bit like, all right, we got to come and kind of respect you, Nan, but at the same time, you know that this is what we do.
I make sure now that when we go out, I've got spare house keys, mobile phone, and money for a taxi, because we can be anywhere, and he's gone, and he's just left me.
Mid-May in Cornwall, and the new Quay lifeboat station has been paged again. Someone's been cut off by the tide. The crew have only just returned from another shout.
Got
game, went to Sainsbury's, bought myself a 4-pack of beer. It's a Heineken Cup final, isn't it? I thought I'll watch the rugby, have a couple of beers.
It can be frustrating sometimes. If you just rush down for the middle of doing something you're enjoying doing. When you get tasked, it's something that's easily avoidable, but that's the nature of the beast.
A woman and her dog are trapped by the incoming tide at Bedruthen Steps Beach, over 5 miles from Newquay by sea.
That area is notorious, really. Over a matter of only a few days, maybe a week, we had been called to this same place, Bedruthen Steps, 3 times in a row.
To increase their chances of finding the casualty, both of the station's boats are launched. The larger, faster Atlantic class and the smaller D class, better suited to beach landings.
So it's a woman and her boxer dog. She sounds like she's rang it in. Yeah. I think they're set on the southern side, so I think like they're this side of the cave. Yeah, turn left.
Bedruthen Steps, there's lots of rocks, some that you can go behind, some that you can't. Very flat beach. 1 minute they're walking along with 10, 20 metres of golden sands in front of them, and then 20 minutes later, they're stood on the rocks, wondering how they're going to get back. First thoughts when we're going up there is finding her. They're obviously going to be frightened and afraid if they've had to make an emergency call. As soon as she's got eyes on us, she's going to feel a whole lot better about the situation.
What I'll do is I'll go start south side.
Unfortunately, at Bedruthen Steps, the tide actually cuts you off only a couple of hours after low tide, so there would have been nowhere for her to escape.
She's probably in here somewhere.
The Atlantic arrives on the scene first, and the crew set about trying to locate the casualty.
Something blue there. Oh, what's that there? Is that a person with a blue jacket? Yeah. Oh, yeah, and the brown dog. Right.
When you spot the person and you can see that they're on sort of dry land and at that time look to be unharmed, it's a relief straight away because you know that then you've got time to be able to sit back and assess the situation.
The two crews decide to send the smaller D class in through the surf to the beach to pick up the casualty and her dog.
Engine's on tilt, it's going straight for the clean beach, straight in, we'll get in, beach it. If you go up Rapper and that and me and Ross.
With a flood tide, the sooner we've got them in and the more beach we have to aim for, the easier it is for us as crew. If we get in and it's tight up against the cliffs, trying to hold the boat in place can be very difficult.
Yeah, right. You're all good behind.
The woman has been stranded for over half an hour, with the tide still coming in fast all around her.
Hi there.
When I saw the boat arrive, there was a tremendous sense of relief. You do feel lonely when you're in trouble near the sea. When you're faced with a rising tide, it was something that I couldn't see my way out of.
You okay? Yeah?
Upset
You sure?
I did it wrong.
No, it's fine. It's a really notorious place to get cut off, so it happens a lot, so don't worry at all.
She was distressed, understandably. You know, it's a lonely experience. You're generally cut off, isolated. You know, you look around you, there's high cliffs. You think, you know, nobody's ever going to see you. It's quite mentally stressful.
What's the dog's name?
Cooper.
Cooper? So is he quite friendly to be picked up and that? Yeah.
I was upset because I was having to ask for help because I'm a fiercely independent person and I really didn't like to ask for help and I kept wanting to find my own way back, but I realised I couldn't. I couldn't believe that it was so high so soon because high tide was at least 3 hours away and I started to panic. I then tried to climb over some of the rocks, calling Cooper to come with me, but they were already wet and my feet were slipping and I bashed my shins and I realised that if I didn't stop, I could be in far greater danger. I could hurt myself.
What we'll do is we'll take you out through the small little waves on the small one. We'll get you on the nice big one. It's really solid.
I panicked because I was worried for my safety And I was worried for Cooper as well. He puts his absolute trust in me. I felt totally powerless.
So if you put this one on you, perhaps pop that up because it's going to get splashed a little bit.
I was still quite upset because I still felt I should have done something to not get myself in that situation, but I felt that I'd done everything right. I didn't realise I would be in that situation.
Okay, I'll just help you hold Cooper there.
The tides and the conditions change daily, obviously the size of the tides, but actually the sand shifts a lot as well on a daily basis. So the particular cove she was in is the first one that gets cut off. So, you know, really everything was sort of against her, even though she'd tried her best. You know, she had made the effort. It's not like she's, you know, naively gone down there and taken risks. So, you know, things just went against her, but she did everything right.
Just little splashes over the top, nothing coming into the boat. Just hold on.
On these sort of shouts, a little bit of continuity with dealing with someone is really beneficial for the casualty. So obviously I was the first one to speak to Linda, so you know, I've remained sort of close to her, reassuring her while we're in the D-class smaller lifeboat.
Good boy, good boy.
And then I actually transferred with her and Cooper the dog onto the Atlantic, just for that continuity of, you know, a familiar face.
Okay, I'm going to stand you up, Linda. I'm going to pass you on to these hunky gentlemen on the other side. Turn around, put one foot on. Good. Come on, boy. Good boy, good boy. That's it, good boy.
The 10 or 15 minute journey back to the harbour, it seemed like a lifetime because it was so cold, windy and wet.
You right there? Comfy?
All the while we were on the boat, he was crouched down, his arms around Cooper, reassuring him and telling me that he was fine.
Cooper, the dog, he was fantastic. Behaved very well. He's a very good dog. I'm sure he had a few treats when he got home.
Hey, there's Mummy. You okay there, Linda? Bit windy when you're going along, isn't it? But it's nice and quiet now.
If I could see the guys that rescued me now, I would say thank you for being so understanding and non-judgmental, and thank you for looking after Cooper.
Whoop. Big shape.
I would say there's absolutely no reason for you to be embarrassed. Mistakes happen and accidents happen. It's not a big issue for us. It's what we're here for.
No problem. Take it easy.
Keep enjoying the beach. Keep walking your dog on the beach. You learn the hard way, but don't be embarrassed about it. It's one of those things.